Good afternoon, everyone. Virtual meeting of the MAG Executive Committee is called to order. Melissa, would you take a roll call?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll go down a list of members. Please indicate if you're present. Mayor Gallego.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Giles.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Hartke.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Peterson. Mayor Weiss.
Here.
Thank you. And our chair is present, so we do have a quorum of the executive committee.
All right, thank you. Do we have any cards or any call to the audience? Anybody with written comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've received no comments for this item or any other item on the agenda.
Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to move on to number 3, approval of consent agenda. Many members may request that the item be removed from the consent agenda. Prior to this action on the consent agenda, members of the audience be provided opportunity to comment on consent items marked with an asterisk. We get an approval on the consent agenda. Items 3A through 31 are on the consent agenda as an update. 3B, 3C, 3D, 3E, 3H were recommended for approval by management committee on January 13th. Any member of the executive committee have any questions or would like a presentation on any of the items? Seeing none, can I have a motion to recommend approval of the consent items 3A through 3I?
Mr. Chair, this is Ken Weiss. I'll make the motion.
Mayor Gallego.
Okay, we have a motion from Mayor Weiss, second from Mayor Gallego. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Melissa, would you take a roll call?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll call your name. Please indicate how you vote. Mayor Gallego.
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor Giles.
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor Hartke.
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor Peterson. Mayor Weiss.
Aye.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you. The consent agenda passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move to items to be heard. It's going to be item number 7. It's going to be out of order. The next item was an addendum to the agenda. Again, it is being taken out of order. The discussion of the development of the FY 2022-2023 MEG Unified Planning Work Program and Annual Budget. MEG Senior Accountant Amy, I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name. Would you give the report?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. MEG is inviting member feedback and for the MEG fiscal years 2022 and 2023 for the Unified Planning Work Program and Annual Budget. The purpose of the program is to allocate MEG's funding and resources, communicate our progress, and to invite feedback on the work that we're proposing for the next 2 fiscal years. The UPWEC was previously produced as a 1-year work program, but the Arizona Department of Transportation changed that requirement for MEG beginning with fiscal years 2020 and 21. MEG is now beginning the development of the 2-year work program for fiscal years 22 and 23, which will include the budgets and corresponding metrics and performance measures. MEG is not making any significant changes to the fiscal year 22 and 23 UPWEC, but we're ensuring to meet the requirements by the Government Finance Officers Association, GFOA, and the federal government. MEG plans to make the recommended structural changes based on the GFOA feedback from the previous UPWEC. The organization of the UPWEC will focus on MEG's divisions and projects, whereas the projects will continue to be identified by one of the 5 core values of safe and smart travel, economy and growth, improving quality of life, environment and sustainability, and MEG operations. The dues and assessments, which are as shown in attachment A, MEG is proposing to keep the member dues and assessments for both fiscal year 22 and 23 the same as the reduced fiscal year 21 member dues and assessments. To recall, the fiscal year 21 member dues were reduced this year by 20% from the originally proposed rates. due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. The only changes to the dues and assessments for the fiscal year 22 and 23 are the elimination of the census assessment and the 911 litigation assessment, with which both of them ended in 2021. The only other difference is the allocation amounts for each of the member agencies based on the population estimates. The allocation amounts are based on member agency percentage of the population. For 22, the July 1st, 2020 population as adopted by the MEG Regional Council on December 2nd was used. In the fiscal year 23, the July 1st, 2021 estimated population was used. The homeless prevention assessment was originally allocated to the CDBG recipients. However, it was suggested in the management committee that the homeless prevention assessment be allocated regionally to all member agencies. So MEG is planning on providing an updated version of the dues and assessments with this change included, allocating the homeless prevention assessment based on the population of the member agencies. The fiscal year 22 and 23 dues and assessments proposed for qualifying member agencies comprise of the member dues, solid waste, water quality, 911, human services, and homeless prevention. And the timeline, which is shown in attachment B, the budget proposed timeline is being presented to provide details on the updates that will provide the UPWEP for the intergovernmental meetings, management, regional council exec, and the regional council. In January, we have the proposed dues and assessments in the timeline. In February, any new projects in the budget and brief. In March, the information review of the draft. In April, any changes to the draft documents. Also in April, we have a confirmed virtual biennial intermodal planning group meeting, which is with FHWA, FTA, ADOT, and others. And then in May, we have the final presentation of the draft of the 22-23 UPWEP. That concludes my presentation, and open it for any comments or questions.
All right, any questions? Go ahead.
Through the chair. Thank you. Thank you for that excellent presentation. Could you speak a little bit to the budget around homelessness? I am very proud of what MAG has accomplished with a very lean team, but I think we have talked about that we would love to do additional investments in addition to spreading it so that all cities can be involved in the financial side.
Thank you, Mayor Gallegos. I'm going to refer to Amy St. Peter to elaborate more on that assessment.
Great. Thank you very much, Amy Epley, Mr. Chairman, and Mayor Gallego, and members of the committee. Very happy to have that question and very, very deeply thankful for your support in this space particularly. There was a suggestion at the MAG Management Committee to expand the dues that are charged and be able to represent that more regionally, because we are embracing this as truly a regional issue. And so then there was the suggestion that perhaps all communities could contribute to that homeless planning assessment. And so we're looking at two different options right now, and would love any feedback that you might have. One of those options is to apply that same per capita to all of the MAG member agencies, and that would result in a slight increase to the homeless planning assessment. The other is to keep the same total amount that is currently being collected from the 12 or 13 agencies and apply that lower amount then to all of the MAG member agencies based on population. And so we're running the figures on both of those options right now, and hope to circle back with you on that to show you the figures for your consideration, for your action, but welcome any feedback that you might have on that at this time. Are there any other questions about that, or?
Maybe speak to how many staff employees would be in this budget as presented to us, and then if we did take the MAG Management Committee's recommendation, how many staff would be working on homelessness for our very large county?
Thank you very much. Really appreciate that question. So the MAG Regional Council agenda, we are requesting to include an item that's related to your request from the last December Regional Council meeting. We have completed an assessment of our staffing needs, as well as staffing as it's provided by other continuums of care across the country. We are proposing to add 2 new staff members to our homeless planning team. One of those would be a data analyst in the Regional Analytics Division. The other would be a program manager assigned exclusively to the homeless planning team. It's someone who could really help to be laser focused on meeting the needs of the region in terms of homelessness, as well as maintaining compliance with the federal standards that we are responding to through the continuum of care, through the Department of Housing and Urban Development. So the continuum of care very much wants to lead in this space, and we very much want to provide the staffing that's needed to more fully do that. When we consider how continuums of care are staffed across the country, Denver, for example, a peer region, they have 9 staff members assigned, and we currently have 4. So in all of our assessment, we found that we are significantly understaffed, and being able to add those 2 new additional staff members would help us to better meet the needs of the region. And it would also mean that we would be continuing to leverage staff from other divisions, other teams, and our external partners as well. Those 2 staff positions would not result in an increase in the homeless planning assessment. We can cover that through the HUD planning grant that we currently receive. The increase in the homeless planning assessment, should that be approved, would of course provide additional staffing, additional support to our staffing, and also increase the amount that we would be able to contract out for additional technical expertise as needed through consultants. Thank you.
Wonderful. I would love for us to look at perhaps a strategic partnerships staff who might, you were obviously doing work in that area. You know, Nathan can do work with other levels of government, but I think there's people in the business community who want to help us and want to be engaged. Really people at all levels of government.
Absolutely.
And so we have the capacity to accept that help.
Thank you very much. Really do appreciate that. We do also have a currently vacant, already approved staff position that we are hiring for right now. That is a systems level planner, which may help in terms of these strategic partnerships. So we are currently interviewing candidates for that, but love the focus on the strategic partnerships and really want to be able to meet that need. Thank you. Eric, were you want to jump in?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the executive committee, just one additional item. So if these 2 additional positions are approved to support the homeless planning, I think that's going to be on regional council here this month. That won't affect the dues and assessments for homeless planning. We figure out how to fund those positions another way. And so the dues and assessments, the only change you might see is what Amy mentioned, that all MAG member agencies will be asked to pay some into the homeless planning assessment.
Thank you. And the 2 new positions that are being requested would, the regional analytics staff member would come out of the funding that's already available for that division, and then the program manager for homelessness would come from the new HUD grant.
Any other questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
So that's exciting that we're hiring some planning staff, and I get that. I mean, I can speak really just for my community with our CRF money has really been a godsend, in responding to the homeless community for the last 10, 11 months. And I know that, the Biden administration, that the next relief package, I think $350 billion, if I've got my numbers right, for state and local government, although at this point, it seems like we're fairly clueless as to how that's going to be allocated between local, county, state government, and to what extent that will be impactful, perhaps, in continuing some of the homeless services that we've been providing. So it seems like the clock is ticking. I mean, and having a planning staff is great, but are we going to? Is that because we have a goal date for a regional strategic plan that, and I apologize if I'm just not paying close enough attention, but having planning staff is great. When are we going to get something, when are we going to have a plan as opposed to planners?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Great question. And thank you very much, Mayor Giles, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee. We will have a portfolio of regional strategies for your consideration and action by your May Regional Council meeting. Those are under development right now. We have completed an assessment of the best practices nationally. We have also completed an inventory of the local plans and strategies and priorities that are in place right now. We are synthesizing that into one portfolio of regional strategies that will be used to strengthen the regional infrastructure to address homelessness homelessness. So that has already been developed in a very draft format right now. We are continuing with additional research, including a formal needs assessment, as well as ongoing outreach. We had our first outreach forum with the nonprofit leadership. We have another one scheduled with the business community as well as the housing community, and we have others in the queue as well. All of that will be used to fine tune that initial portfolio of regional strategies that will come before you in May for your approval. And then in June, we'll start a tactical plan to implement those strategies, and that will come before you at the August Regional Council meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary Giles.
Anyone else? Okay, that was for discussion only. So thank you, Amy. With that,
Thank
we're
you.
going to go ahead and move back to item 4. Legislative update, MEG Policy and Government Relations Director Nathan. You have a report for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Executive Committee. Today I'm going to talk about state legislature and then turn attention to federal update. So starting with the state, of course, the legislative session started Monday, January 11. We're seeing that House and Senate are navigating COVID protocols. And of course, that may have some impact on the flow of legislation. Seeing this year, the number of bills filed early was low. So I think everyone's kind of minded regarding COVID and how meetings will take place. Of course, the governor has stated his state of the state policy issues and related proposed budget. So we'll track all this throughout session as we normally do. We're in communication with members of the legislature and their staff. Of course, we will continue to utilize our contract specialist on state legislative matters and appreciate you all in your conversations with members of the legislature and of course your government relations staff. Of course, the top of mind is enabling legislation. We continue to work through our plan development process in the spring months, looking to better understand via scenarios the trade-offs that are ahead of the region in terms of enabling legislation and the rate of proposed legislation, what would go to the voters. I know a number of you are quite familiar with this issue and have been reaching out to members of the legislature. So we appreciate that effort. We will stay on top of that and provide updates as needed. Turn to the federal side, as was mentioned, of course, there's an incoming new administration, new Congress. We're going to see a significant change in the political dynamics, in particular what's being proposed related to COVID relief. We'll continue tracking that. Surface transportation reauthorization will be a topic of conversation this year as well. We continue to participate with the National Association of Regional Councils on federal surface transportation issues. Just as a side note as well, we will be ramping up our conversations with our peer agencies in the Intermountain West, so metropolitan planning organizations in the Intermountain West. We face a lot of similar issues, as Amy St. Peter pointed out, with homelessness, but also related to transportation and other issues as well. The fast-growing states in the Intermountain West, our issues are different from older, more developed states in the Midwest and West, or East rather. So we'll be ramping up those conversations, looking for common issues that we can work on together on the federal side. Of note, the coronavirus response and relief supplemental appropriative 2021 was signed into law. On the transportation side, that we're seeing $14 billion in Federal Transit Administration relief funds going to the nation. The Phoenix Mesa urbanized area is set to receive about $86.2 million. So we'll be taking this through our programming process starting in our February committees. Also of note too, $10 billion in Federal Highway Administration allocated to state departments of transportation. We're still awaiting final allocations on this, but we'll continue to track that. We're estimating currently $182 million to the state of Arizona. A portion of that will go to the MAG region. And then finally, Mr. Chairman, on the federal side, in that coronavirus relief bill, there was an inclusion of the expansion of Arizona and New Mexico border zone travel. This was done as report language. So really, this is the border crossing card expansion to statewide for Mexican visitors that we've been working on for a number of years now. So that was included as report language, encouraging U.S. Customs Border Protection to develop a pilot program. And I'm going to emphasize that word encourage. That was a direct word in that report language to USCBP. So USCBP, from the date of enactment of the report language, has 60 days to report back to congressional committees on what a pilot program would look like. So this is an important first step in terms of getting this program expanded for statewide visitation to Arizona by Mexican visitors holding a border crossing card. Of course, we've noted this is a $180 million positive economic impact to the state of Arizona in its first year. So we'll continue to update developments on that front. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions from the membership? Hearing none, seeing none. Thank you, Nathan.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
my unmuting finger was slow on the trigger there.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know we did have we have had some discussions about the Prop 400 extension timing and the fact that Senator Livingston seemed to have a bill that he was anxious to drop that might not be consistent with our goals as an organization. Has that become any more clear? Are we still expecting that he's going to do that, or has our strategy become more developed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mayor Giles, for that. We continue our conversation with Senator Livingston. Our understanding of today is that he intends to run his proposed legislation. Our understanding is this would be, could be a half cent, basically a straight line continuance of what we have today. We've noted to him that we are in our plan process. I know that a number of mayors have done the same as well, and that we will continue to work with him on something that works for the region. Of note in this, the other 14 counties in the state of Arizona are authorized via their county board of supervisors to call a ballot to their voters up to 1 cent. Maricopa County is the only county that does not have that authorized provision in statute. So we also continue to impress that as well with members of the legislature.
Nathan, if I could, the conversation I had with him, I advocated to get the same parity that all the other counties have, the full cent. But he indicated to me that his intentions were 3/4 of a cent, not a half cent. I don't know if anybody has had a conversation with him other than myself, but that's my takeaway from it.
Mr. Chairman, yes, we have had similar conversations with the senator over a number of months in the 2020 timeframe regarding a half cent, a possibility of a 3/4 of a cent. That conversation seems to be in flux in terms of the actual number and where it might land in terms of proposed legislation. So yes, we've had similar conversations with the senator.
Okay. And again, my understanding is that the bill he's planning on dropping will be 3/4 of a cent. So he's just throwing a bunch of buckets out there, and we told him that we don't agree with that. And we've done some talking with some other folks, Karen Fan and folks looking for support. So anyway, it seemed like our best option is what we talked about before, and that's having the same equal opportunities that all the other counties do. That seems to be the most readily acceptable from what I've come across. So
I agree with that. So I guess I'm wondering, do we need to then have an understanding that we are going to let Senator Livingston know that we are going to oppose his bill? I mean, I know we're trying to be as collegial as we can with him, but at some point, do we have to say, sorry, we're gonna fight to see this bill not come to, not get passed, or is there a better strategy?
Well, I guess we're about 3/4 in support, right?
That still sounds like a no.
Yeah, I think if enough mayors will contact him and let him know what we're looking for, is going to be our best opportunity. But again, I still believe that our strategy we talked about a couple weeks ago is really our best strategy. I think most of the members down there can accept that. But I don't know. It's a good question. Is it something that we need to go out today and start telling them that we're going to oppose this bill? I don't know if we need to do that or not. I'm looking for somebody else to.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking the question too. I don't want to make an enemy out of him, but at the same time, I don't want this bill to pass if it's going to paint us into a corner.
Right.
Mr. Chairman,
Excuse me, Sam Kaufman, just briefly here. I think we need to be careful that this is a discussion item and that we're not, I think if there's going to be a consensus of any sort of action taken, that we would want to set it for a future item.
Yeah, I agree. I guess I'm not asking for a motion or anything. But the agenda, where the agenda is our legislative agenda. And so I guess my question is, are we going to have a legislative agenda related to Senator Livingston's bill?
Eric?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the Executive Committee, we did contact Mr. Livingston's staff following our conference call we had with MAG leadership that included Mayor Wires, Mayor Giles, and Mayor Gallego. And he, through his staff, communicated back that he was not interested in having a meeting with more than one mayor at a time. And so our next strategy, we actually have a call set up, a meeting set up with Senator DePace, who's the incoming, or is the Senate Transportation Chair. And so we will have that discussion with Senator DePace next week too. I just wanted to provide that to the committee too. So we tried to reach out to Senator Livingston, and he wasn't interested in talking to our leadership team. And so we're going to go to Plan B.
Okay, just so Senator Pace is my senator, and we've helped each other with elections in the past. So if I can, I'd be happy to be a part of that meeting or not, depending on whether you think it would be strategically useful or not.
Yeah, I think you're on the invite, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, all right. So that finishes that up. Moving on to item 5. Are there any requests for future agenda items from the membership? Seeing none. Okay, I guess with that, I guess meeting's adjourned. Kevin, you okay? Okay. All right, very good. Okay, folks. Well, thank you so much. Hope everybody has a good day. Enjoy the rain.
Thank you.